Now it's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation.
What are you people? On dope?
Where you can toke.
I inhale frequently.
Or you can talk.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
Or you can toke and talk.
10 federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
While we talk about toke on Toker Talk Radio.
So, by the way, when it comes to pot, if you're 40 years old, you live in a log cabin in Oregon, you got 12 giant pot plants in your backyard, have a ball.
Live from beautiful Portland, Oregon at Rolla J Studios.
Hey, this is great.
Just not cannabis.
Plus your calls live at 971-533-7111.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel? Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sultan of sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical Russ Belville.
Welcome back, everybody. Glad to have you here, tokers and tokettes and non-token lovers of liberty. I'm Radical Russ, coming to you live from beautiful Astoria, Oregon. That's right, we're back in Astoria, home of the Goonies, never say die. Visiting my sister from another mister, Cannabis Carrie up here, enjoying a nice sunny day in northern Oregon, northwest coast here. Beautiful day, looking out over the Columbia River. Not a cloud in the sky. I brought me back some decent weather from Phoenix, I think. Good to be back here in Oregon where there's actually some humidity. My skin thanks you for the change of venue. And I thank you for all of your support. I announced the other day on my Facebook page that I've been promoted to news director for CannabisRadio.com. And with that, we've made some upgrades to the Cannabis Radio News. All new, freshly written news stories for you every day. 5 to 6 of the latest headlines available on the Cannabis Radio News podcast. It's available as a separate podcast. So if you don't have time to listen to the whole 2-hour Russ Belville Show Toker Talk Radio combo, you can go ahead and just download the Cannabis Radio News podcast. It's your headlines in 4 minutes and 20 seconds. So really excited about that. And we've been added to Apple News, so we'll be coming through on Apple News soon, and we were recently added to iHeartRadio as well. So we are the source for your cannabis news here, CannabisRadio.com. All right, let me take a look at, we mentioned how this Saturday is the DC marijuana smokeout. And they're bringing a 15-foot or 51-foot replica joint, and it's got some controversy. There's a lot of folks in my feed, the professionals in marijuana activism at both the national and state level groups, who are kind of, I don't know if upset's the right word, but they think it's stupid. They think doing a big smokeout is stupid, and I don't know if it's stupid. I just think it may just be too late. Right? Like I wrote in Facebook that this was a great idea for 2006, right? Do a big smoke out of the White House in front of George W. Bush in 2006 calling for marijuana legalization when there's no state that's legal makes some sense. But these guys are going to be taking a 51-foot joint to the White House in Washington, D.C., where marijuana is legal to cultivate and possess. And when we've got 4 states that are legal. And I understand that the idea is to call on President Barack Obama to deschedule marijuana before he leaves office. I think, that's not likely to happen, even though Gary Johnson seems to think so. But I think it does a disservice to President Obama's legacy on the issue of marijuana legalization. And I can already imagine some people kind of raising their hackles at that. What? Obama good on marijuana legalization? The guy who presided over more medical marijuana raids than any other president? That guy? The guy who laughed, said that legalization wouldn't fix the economy back in 2009? He's good on marijuana? Yes, folks, I'm going to make the case that President Obama has been the best president on marijuana in our lifetime. Stay tuned. When we come back from break in just a couple of minutes, I'll outline my case. We'll also take a look at the other event happening this Saturday, the Ann Arbor Hash Bash at the University of Michigan Diag. 10 for 2, happening ever since 1972, taking place this weekend.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
The next generation of vaporizers has arrived. Vuber vaporizers are blazing the way with unparalleled technology for oil, concentrate, or dry flower pens. Providing unsurpassed customer service and expert craftsmanship, Vuber vaporizers use cutting-edge technology, providing a power-packed, smoother vapor with a lifetime guarantee. Experience vaporizing the way it was meant to be. The Vuber way.
Every strain, every sale, every medical study. Keep it right here on the Cannabis Radio Network.
Hey everybody, it's Radical Russ here from 420 Radio, inviting you to be like me and get your ink done at Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo, Fort Worth's most female-friendly, clean, sterile, awesome tattoo shop. Thomas and his crew are true artists who can design you a custom piece or use a design you bring in. Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo also offers all styles of tattooing as well as piercings and all-around fun. In the DFW area, stop by Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo and tell them Radical Russ sent you. Trust me, it'll feel awesome.
You can find Radical Russ online everywhere. Gmail, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, SoundCloud, Snapchat, LinkedIn, and Boise State University's 2400 baud modem bulletin board system from 1985.
Tommy Chong is ready to cut through the smoke and change the tone of Toker Radio.
All you have to do is decriminalize. We don't need a government regulation to tell us this is good pot, that's bad pot. We don't need any of that.
The Tommy Chong Podcast, only on CannabisRadio.com.
Welcome to my world.
Warning, hits taken on this show are larger than they appear. Do not try this at home. These people are professionals. Or at least they pay me to say that. This is Dan Michaels from DanMichaelsAudio.com, and you're listening to Radical Russ on CannabisRadio.com.
Welcome back, everybody. We are 8 after the hour here in Astoria, Oregon. Our phone lines are open, as they are always in hour 2. You can call any weekday between 4 and 5 Pacific time, and I am here live, ready to take your call. If you agree, you disagree, you want to argue, you want to vent, whatever it is, we love talking to you here. We are the voice of the marijuana nation, and that means your voice. We're the place to get your voice on air. And joining us on the phone lines at 971-533-7111, we got a caller from the 607 area code. You're on the air with Toker Talk Radio. What's up?
Ross, it's Victor Tiffany with the Revolt Against Plutocracy.
Oh, I'm so glad you called. I got your email earlier, and I was really excited to be able to talk to you about this subject, Revolt Against Plutocracy. And this gentleman, and what's your name again?
Victor Tiffany.
Victor. Thank you, Victor. Victor reached out to me by email based on a lot of the political writing I've been doing on Huffington Post regarding my stance of Bernie or bust. And, you know, you're talking to a marijuana talk show here, Victor, and there's a lot of Bernie Sanders fans online here. They love his support of marijuana legalization. Give us the broader view, though, from your perspective of why this movement is so important.
Well, sure. We want to quit throwing people in jail for something that shouldn't even be a crime. But the whole concept of Bernie or bust, which is a pledge people can take to either write in Bernie in the jail or vote for the Green Party candidate if Sanders is not the nominee of the Democratic Party. And the whole idea behind this is to build up enough people taking this Bernie or Bust pledge out there at bernieorbust.org so that we make it very clear to Democrats if they do not nominate Bernie Sanders, they will not win the White House.
Now, I have gotten pushback on this from people that accuse me of,
I bet you have.
of supporting Donald Trump. If you don't vote for the Democratic nominee, no matter who it is, you're enabling the evil, terrible Republican to get in office. What's your response to that?
Yeah, that's the blackmail they've been using for years. And basically, we're done with the whole, you've got to choose the lesser, in this case, of two revolting plutocrats. Trump's revolting for the obvious reasons. He does an impressive impersonation of Benito Mussolini, and Hillary Clinton's revolting in our view because she and her husband own 5 very nice, luxurious mansions, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's the American dream. However, last year she took $250,000 out of the donations that people are sending her. Some working class people send maybe $1 a week. Obviously, fat cats donate $2,700 at a clip. And she took $250,000 of that and put it in her bank account, which is pretty revolting. So we don't accept this lesser of two revolting plutocrats for not just that reason, but she's more hawkish than Trump in foreign policy. I mean, Trump's to her left on a variety of issues. Very important is the fact that Secretary Clinton and Donald Trump both support hydrofracking. If we continue to expand hydrofracking, whether it's regulated or not, we're going to accelerate climate change. And we're at a point near a tipping point with climate change. If we don't immediately get a handle on this and make a rapid transition to sustainable green energy sources, it's going to be too late. There are already a number of positive feedback loops in place. That means, just to give an example, as the temperatures rise due to the greenhouse effect, ice melts on the Arctic Ocean, and then the ocean absorbs more heat in the summer, which leads to more ice melt, which leads to more heat absorption, which leads to more ice melt. That's a positive feedback, and there are a lot of these actually underway. We don't have another 4 years to wait for someone to get into office who will stop hydrofracking and turn this energy away from fossil fuels toward sustainable energy. It's now or never. So we just don't accept Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. And if they want to tell us, wow, you're going to help elect Donald Trump, just reply quoting Secretary Clinton. What difference does it make?
We're speaking with Victor from Revolt Against Plutocracy. And can you give people some of the contact info or online lookup if they want to get involved with you guys? Sure. It's
bernieorbust.org is the easiest way to find us. bernieorbust.com will work. bernieorbust2016.org and bernieorbust2016.com. All of those will get you to our website. You can take a pledge and leave contact information. I will send you a reminder. This is not a petition that you sign and forget. The pledge has 2 parts, not only committing you to vote in a certain way in November, unless Senator Sanders is the Democratic Party nominee, and that's still a possibility, in which case, obviously, we want to vote for the only candidate who supports the legalization of marijuana. But also, it pledges you to find 2 more people to take the pledge. Supposedly, 33% of the Berniecrats out there will not support Hillary Clinton. I'm surprised it's that low. But that's a lot of people out there who might take this pledge. And they're easy to find. If you're on social media, you can find people supporting Bernie Bernie Sanders and just ask them, will you take the pledge, and give them the URL to our website. And if they say no, go find someone else. It's not hard to find two people. It's not a pledge. It's a movement.
Yeah. Well, Victor, I love the pledge. I've taken it myself. But if I remember correctly, the pledge is that should Bernie not be the nominee, we'll vote for Jill Stein of the Green Party, but she's not on the ballot in all 50 states. So in the states where she's not, write in Bernie Sanders. Could this pledge be modified to include the Libertarian candidate, Gary Johnson, who is very strong on the marijuana legalization issue?
No, we actually went over this quite thoroughly. We're not voting for candidates. We're voting for overall. The alternative to writing in Sanders is focused not on a candidate, Jill Stein, but on the Green Party platform,
okay,
which is as close to any other platform we have found out there to Bernie Sanders' platform.
Gotcha.
So, and we're going to stay that way. It's while we appreciate the Libertarian stands on civil rights and legalizing behavior that should be legal in the first place. Overall, the Green Party platform is closest to Bernie Sanders.
Okay, so this is really kind of a movement that's on the Democratic left kind of side of things, and those folks that are on the right that might be Gary Johnson fans might not have been likely to vote for Bernie Sanders anyway.
Well, I mean, that's up to them. People can revolt against the two plutocrats any way they want.
Okay.
We're happy with any rejection of the establishment.
That's fantastic. And you know, Victor, this is getting a lot more mainstream coverage as of late, particularly with two actresses who've come out. Susan Sarandon had a very well publicized discussion with one of the MSNBC hosts on this, and then Rosario Dawson just did a fiery speech in the Bronx the other day. What's your take on the newfound attention to this movement?
Well, it was clearly Sarandon that brought the most attention, even though she didn't actually use the phrase Bernie or bust. The headlines, whether it was New York Times from Charles, yeah, that's his name.
Charles Blow?
I can't think of his name. Blow, yes. Charles Blow, or a number of blogs that really got down on the whole Bernie or bust concept, you know, because for the very reasons that you've already expressed. Oh, my God, you're going to help elect the Mr. Orange for president. But we just don't accept that blackmail anymore. We're not going to leave our consciences home on November 8th when we go vote. We shouldn't have to do that anymore.
Wow. I love the stand, and I'm all behind it. I encourage people to check out bernieorbust.org, or one of the variations that Victor mentioned. And Victor, thanks for reaching out and getting in touch with us. I appreciate the work that you're doing.
Well, we appreciate what you wrote on the Huffington Post and your support for our effort.
Well, there's more coming. I assure you of that. Thanks so much, my man.
That sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. bernieorbust.org. You can check that out if you want more information. And before we go to break, one quick note about Republicans, right? Because we talk a lot on the left here because I'm kind of a lefty, but I got a lot of Republican friends, and I wanted to bring up this quick story where one Republican is attacking another Republican. This is in the state of Pennsylvania, where state Senate candidate Andrew Lewis is calling out his GOP primary opponent, John DeSanto, after DeSanto backed off of supporting marijuana legalization. We got two Republicans in Pennsylvania fighting each other over who is the more supportive of marijuana legalization. Lewis said, quote, "While my opponent may be uncertain as to what exactly he would do with such a serious issue as drug policy and the legalization of a drug like marijuana, I am committed to the health and well-being of families to receive the medical help they need, all the while making sure drug dealers aren't given a free pass to peddle a drug that could destroy the lives of families in our community." End quote. Wow, folks, somebody check the temperature in hell. We have crossed over into bizarro land. Two Pennsylvania Republicans fighting over who's more of a legalizer.
Yo, Adrian, it's me, Rocky.
Happy 420, everyone, from the mouth of the Columbia River and the Pacific Ocean here in Astoria, Oregon. It's a beautiful day. We've got to get to our union-mandated safety briefing. I hope everything is safe for you as well. We're back in just 2 minutes.
From high atop Mount Soledad in San Diego, California, 100 feet above sea level. Good morning. It's good news with cannabis nurse Heather.
This plant is amazing. Positive change is happening. We did it. No matter who you are, you can make a positive impact on the world.
I would rather be illegally alive than legally dead.
And that quote helped to give you strength.
Nurse Heather is only on CannabisRadio.com.
Good morning, Cannabis Nurse Heather.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
This is Cannabis Facts from Robert Platshorn's TheSilverTour.org. Supported by our donors and Hemp Inc., poised to lead America's hemp revolution at hempinc.com. In 1937, the second most prescribed medicine, marijuana, was banned. It wasn't about marijuana. The paper, oil, and chemical industries lobbied to end hemp farming. No longer labor-intensive, an acre of hemp produced more quality paper than 4 acres of trees. Plastics and fibers could be produced from a plant. Hemp can even produce 10 times the energy of today's ethanol. As marijuana prohibition ends, many states now allow farmers to again grow hemp. This was Cannabis Facts from TheSilverTour.org, an educational nonprofit supported by our donors and Hemp Inc., a public company poised to process America's hemp crop at hempinc.com.
We have your smoking section right here. This is the Cannabis Radio Network.
Coming soon to a city near you, Cannabis Finance Boot Camp. Get all your cannabis accounting, legal, and compliance questions answered by their knowledgeable panel of industry experts who want to help your cannabis boom. Whether you're a grower, dispensary operator, or a newcomer to the field, your cannabis needs Cannabis Finance Boot Camp. For information on upcoming events, visit CannabisFinanceBootCamp.com.
Remember, friends, there's more to life than marijuana. I just can't remember what it is. Why'd I come in here? You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation, only on CannabisRadio.com.
Welcome back. Thanks, Dan Michaels. It's 23 after the hour, and I had mentioned earlier in this hour that I was going to make the case that Barack Obama is the best U.S. president on marijuana we've ever had. So here goes. First, let's begin with the disclaimer that the bar is not that high. Okay? Remember that looking back over our U.S. presidents, George W. Bush, not too positive on the issue, very anti-medical marijuana. Bill Clinton was anti-medical marijuana. A lot of people don't remember this, but in 1996, after California and Arizona had passed their medical marijuana statutes, Arizona's turned out to be ineffective because of the word prescription. But after this had become a reality that people were going to have legal access to marijuana, the Clinton administration, and at this time was his chief of staff, Rahm Emanuel, you know, the guy who, or his policy advisor, Rahm Emanuel, the same one who was the mayor of Chicago, who's tried to hide the killing of Laquan up there in Chicago. That guy, that scumbag. Well, Rahm Emanuel was in charge of trying to respond to the legalization of medical marijuana in California in Clinton's second term, and did so by threatening doctors. They threatened that they would take the prescription rights, because all prescriptions are federal, right? It's handled Controlled Substances Act. If they want to prescribe you OxyContin, or if they want to prescribe you, Ambien or something, that's a federal license. The Clinton administration, through Rahm Emanuel, threatened doctors with loss of their federal prescription license if they recommended medical marijuana, if they merely talked about medical marijuana. This put a chilling effect at the beginning of the medical marijuana era from these doctors, legit doctors who didn't want to lose their license to prescribe other drugs. It had to go all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. Conant v. Walters, I believe, was the name of the Supreme Court case. Conant had to sue. This doctor had to sue, saying, look, you can't punish me for the First Amendment. I may be a doctor, but I still have First Amendment rights. I still have the right to free speech. You can't curtail the content of my speech, especially in the context of the doctor-patient relationship. And they won that case. So that's why medical marijuana was allowed to proceed and why every medical marijuana law refers to recommendations, because that's a doctor's free speech right that cannot be infringed. But let's not forget, the Clinton administration tried to shut down medical marijuana. Prior to Bill Clinton, George H.W. Bush and Ronald Reagan, these are presidents that couldn't even face the AIDS epidemic. George H.W. Bush was the president who ended the compassionate investigative new drug program applications for people who wanted to use marijuana to treat HIV. Ronald Reagan, of course, couldn't even say AIDS. Jimmy Carter was the last good president that we had on marijuana policy, and Carter went farther than any president ever has since or before in calling on Congress to decriminalize 1 ounce of marijuana, saying that the penalties for the use of a drug should not be more harmful to the user than the use of the drug itself. Before Carter, we have Ford and Nixon, who of course created the war on drugs and hated marijuana. And of course, there's really no point in going before Nixon to talk about how any president dealt with marijuana policy. So is Obama the best president? Well, I feel that Obama's legacy on marijuana is what he didn't do. It's the dog that didn't bark, right? It's his lack of counter to the emergence of legal marijuana in Colorado that will be his legacy. The federal government could have responded to marijuana legalization in Colorado and Washington in any number of ways to try to shut it down. And Obama didn't do anything. Now, we can criticize Obama like the DC activists are doing this weekend. We can criticize him for what he didn't do, that he didn't decriminalize it, that he didn't reschedule it, that he didn't move forward on it. And we can be upset that he laughed about it and dismissed it. But he never tried to oppose it. He never got in the way of legalization happening. Now, his crony or his administration may have. You know, Melinda Hagg in Northern California and the Washington AGs, or U.S. attorneys, I should say. The Washington U.S. attorneys. Some of these other U.S. attorneys, Pennsylvania district, that woman out there. Yes, in his executive branch, in his Department of Justice, there have been people who have gone ahead and exercised their authority in a negative way against medical marijuana or legalization. But he did not... Obama did not order that to happen. Again, it's a situation where on the situation of, or on the issue of marijuana, Obama's just been absent. He just hasn't had any guidance or direction. And folks, maybe that's the best we could have gotten. Maybe Obama's reaction to marijuana legalization was the smartest political decision possible. Imagine if the first black president, under complete obstruction from the GOP that has vowed to wreck his presidency, if he came out positively for marijuana in any way. The resulting backlash to that could have given rise to a greater backlash against marijuana legalization in general. Instead, by not addressing the topic whatsoever, other than the occasional joke on CNN, but by not addressing it, by just letting it happen, by kind of saying that's out of my hands, it's the states and the laboratories of democracy, Obama may have actually been the best thing we could have gotten. Him trying to positively help Colorado and Washington could have engendered a backlash, whereas just letting it happen has allowed the inexorable tide of the green rush, of the growing business, of the unfolding law of supply and demand, to make the progress that we needed that couldn't have been made if the president was there trying to push it, because of the entrenched opposition to anything this president does, even if it was something Republicans would have done beforehand, right? It's Bill Maher on his show calls it black tracking, when a GOP elected official changes their mind because they recognize that they've come to agree with the president. they have to backtrack. So that's what I think with respect to Obama is that alongside Jimmy Carter, now I guess we could say Jimmy Carter is the only president who ever did anything positive toward marijuana legalization by calling for that decrim. But Obama let legalization happen, and he didn't have to. So I think we should give Obama some credit on that. All right, let me get back to some other stories because it's Friday, and we got to round up a whole bunch of stuff happening all across the country. We mentioned the Ann Arbor Hash Bash taking place at the University of Michigan Diag in Ann Arbor. It's been going on since 1972. It was founded in response to the arrest of activist John Sinclair, who was busted for 2 joints in 1972 and sentenced to 10 years in prison for 2 joints. John Lennon heard the plight of John Sinclair and wrote the song 10 for 2, as in 10 years for 2 joints. And that galvanized popular musicians and activists to gather at the University of Michigan for a protest in 1972 that has now been going on. This will be, what is that, the 44th year? 45th time they're doing it. And it's an amazing event, but at the Michigan Daily, which is one of the websites here for University of Michigan, Michigan Daily has a story about the Hash Bash. It's entitled Ahead of Hash Bash, University and State Policy on Marijuana, called into question. They've got this nice map of the legal states and the medical states. And next to the map is some statistics that, according to the graphics, say are sourced by the National Institutes of Health and the Drug Policy Alliance. You can tell which ones came from Drug Policy Alliance and which ones came from National Institutes of Health. Let me just read you some of the known health effects of marijuana, according to the Michigan Daily. Known health effects of marijuana. Number 1, breathing problems. It's kind of vague, but what we know about long-term marijuana use and lung health is that aside from excess production of phlegm and the possibility of bronchitis, there are no long-term breathing problems. When people say breathing problems, you're thinking of things like COPD and emphysema. COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and emphysema, the kind of problems with breathing that, require surgery, require lifetime use of oxygen, those kind of breathing problems that cigarette smokers get, cannabis smokers don't get them. I am not going to say that inhaling burning vegetable matter smoke into your lungs is healthy for them. And indeed, you do get a little bit of a cough. I'm not going to lie, you can get a little bit of a hack. It can affect the pitch of your voice. My voice has gotten lower because of my marijuana smoking. But a lot of this can be alleviated through vaporization, through edibles, and other ways of consuming cannabis. Another known health effect of marijuana, increased heart rate. Yes, when you're smoking pot. When you first smoke pot, there's an increase in heart rate. But this makes it sound like you're going to have this increased heart rate all the time. No, you have it when you're using marijuana, and it's equivalent to running up a flight of stairs or having vigorous sex. You ever hear those Viagra commercials? Ask your doctor if your heart is healthy enough for sexual activity. Well, if your doctor says your heart's healthy enough for sexual activity, you're healthy enough to smoke a joint, folks. And then this one. Oh, this one. This is the one that's been pissing me off as of late. Known health effect of marijuana. Number 3, lower life satisfaction. Yes, you're less satisfied with your life because you smoked pot. Pot caused you not to be satisfied with your life. Had nothing to do with the drug test that cost you your job and made you homeless. The reason you're dissatisfied isn't the fact that you have no job and you're homeless because of prohibition. It's because you smoked pot. That's such a stupid health effect. Lower life satisfaction. What makes you satisfied with your life? Succeeding, making money, having good relationships. Cannabis doesn't stop any of those things from happening. It's the prohibition of cannabis that stops those things from happening. When You lose your full ride scholarship or your financial aid because you got caught with a baggie of weed. And then you're kicked out of school. And then instead of possibly becoming a doctor, now you're flipping burgers at McDonald's. Yeah, you might be less satisfied with your life. You went to school, got your degree. You got a STEM degree, some sort of science, technology, engineering, or math degree. You got a STEM degree. You're ready to jump in and make one of those six-figure high-end science gigs. Oh, but there's a drug test for that job you want. Maybe you'll take a different job that doesn't drug test. Or maybe you give up cannabis and you get that job, but you're less satisfied with your life because cannabis kind of made you happy and now you're just not as happy anymore. It's impossible for us to say what the mental health and well-being and life satisfaction statistics are for cannabis users so long as prohibition confounds those stats. We got more stories to round up for you when we come back. Happy Friday, everybody. Happy April Fool's Day. We're back in just 2 minutes.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Dr. Dabber, hurry! Its temperature is shooting past 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It's burning up.
I'm afraid for this little guy, it's just too late.
What caused the problem?
Only Dr. Dabber can maintain the perfect temperature for a smooth-tasting, slower burn. This standard vaporizer lost all of its health benefits, sending it up in smoke.
So you're telling me that most vapor pens burn so hot they produce smoke, not vapor?
Correct. Keep away from those standard vaporizer pens and turn to Dr. Dabber. Doctor's orders.
Less heat, more flavor.
Earn your PhD in THC monetization with CannabisRadio.com. Don't be late.
With over 6 years of experience in the industry, New Era CPAs is one of the nation's leading cannabis accounting firms, helping hundreds of growers, dispensaries, and ancillary companies with their tax, legal, and business strategies. New Era CPAs offices cover the West Coast from Seattle to San Diego, and their skilled team is always available to help you take your business to the next level. Visit neweracpas.com for more info and set up a consultation. Welcome to the new era.
This is Dan Michaels from danmichaelsaudio.com, and you're listening to Radical Russ on CannabisRadio.com.
CannabisRadio.com keeps you in the know Monday through Friday on air and on demand with Cannabis Radio News, presented with the definitive worldwide news source, the Associated Press. Stay informed with exclusive news on all things cannabis. Cannabis Radio News, live weeknights at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, during the Russ Belville Show, or download the daily podcast exclusively on CannabisRadio.com, as well as iTunes, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. When breaking news happens in the cannabis industry, Cannabis Radio News delivers the details first.
Warning. Hits taken on this show are larger than they appear. Do not try this at home. These people are professionals. Or at least they pay me to say that. This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Welcome back, everyone. 21 minutes to the top of the hour, and a quick programming note. Stoner Jesus will not be joining us at 5 o'clock. I know. Don't be sad. Stoner Jesus is off tonight, so there'll be a replay of Stoner Jesus show at 5 o'clock. Also, don't forget my regular stop on the music network, 420radio.org, the source for cannabis-related music and events. I'll be joining Herb Thrasher on the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour tonight on 420radio.org. That takes place at 8 p.m., lasts to 10 p.m., Pacific time on 420radio.org. It's metal marijuana mayhem. So if you like that hard rock, stoner rock, heavy metal stuff, Herb Thrasher's your guy. You want to check that show out on 420radio.org. There's also an app out there if you like to listen to 420 Radio on the go. It's at 420radio.buzz. When we went to break, I was talking about this piece in the Michigan Daily, marijuana legalization called into question, with respect to this Ann Arbor Hash Bash that's taking place tomorrow. And I was going over this graphic that purports the known health effects of marijuana. We already covered that it's going to cause breathing problems. Not true. That it increases heart rate while you're smoking. Leads to lower life satisfaction because prohibition sucks. And now we're into the fourth known health effect of marijuana, according to this Michigan Daily. Poorer physical and mental health. Folks, it's just not true. First of all, on the physical side, we have found that regular cannabis consumers have lower body mass index, less incidence of head, neck, and lung cancer, no more incidence of COPD and emphysema, and so many other physical differences, less incidence of diabetes. People that use cannabis, by and large, are healthier than the average person who does not. And mental health. Now, there's a lot of talk about how cannabis use can cause anxiety for some people, can cause paranoia for some people, is bad for people that have a schizophrenic background or suffer from depression. These can be some considerations. THC is certainly contraindicated for people who suffer from some of these conditions, absolutely. But in general, mental health-wise, the regular consumption of cannabis is no more likely to be a detriment to mental health than not consuming cannabis. And for some people, it's a benefit for their mental health in that it's helping treat their underlying conditions of anxiety or depression. The number 5 known health effect, this one, oh, what a doozy. Temporary hallucinations. Where do I find this weed? Could you get me some of this weed that causes temporary hallucinations? I'm on the West Coast, man. We got some of the strongest bud, some of the most potent extract you can get. I have yet to have a hallucination. Now, increase in appreciation of sensory input? Sure. Colors may be more vivid. Sounds may be more intricate. Songs may be more layered. Poetry may be more interesting. But that's not a hallucination. That's cannabis removing the clutter from your brain to appreciate these sensory inputs. When people see this graphic and they see, oh my God, a health effect of marijuana, temporary hallucinations, they're thinking you're seeing a pink spotted elephant in the room, like visual hallucinations. And that just ain't so. And the number 6 problem, they say, is a known health effect from marijuana. Problems with child development during or after pregnancy. Yeah, marijuana, terribly detrimental to the fetus. That's why the Rastafarians died out. That's why there are no Jamaican kids. That's why Bob Marley has 12 known kids. Tommy Chong has 9 known kids, or 7, I think, and Willie Nelson has 9, one or the other. Folks, if there were a problem with marijuana and child development, we would have seen it by now. See, these people that purport these terrible results from marijuana act as if marijuana's never existed. In 1979, 60% of high school seniors had tried marijuana. It's the greatest teen use of marijuana we've ever recorded in this country. We've never even come close to where we were in the late 1970s when it comes to marijuana use by young people. If there was going to be a marijuana fetal syndrome or a shaken marijuana baby syndrome or whatever the hell it ended up being called, we'd have seen it by now. All those Summer of Love hippie moms that got pregnant at Woodstock, we would have seen an effect in their kids by now. And what we found is that kids have just gotten smarter and more active, and there's just no bodies. Where are the bodies? We keep bringing this up. Where is the problem that needs to be solved? Dr. Melanie Dreyer studied thousands of Jamaican women in the 70s, studied the effects of cannabis on their newborn babies, and months after, was there a developmental effect? Couldn't find one. We find minor little things like maybe a little bit lower birth weight. That's about it. And the reason why is because, as you and I know, cannabis is natural and it's a supplement to our endocannabinoid system. Endocannabinoids, anandamide, are present in mother's breast milk. It's theorized they're there to stimulate the appetite of the newborn infant, to make that effect and to create a euphoric effect involved in the act of suckling that contributes to the well-being of the infant. It's evolution, folks. It's there to help us survive. So if we've got a natural endocannabinoid that is there from minute one of our first suckle of mother's milk, I find it hard to believe that exocannabinoids, plant cannabinoids, can be that terribly detrimental. All right, let me move on to some other stories here. Some good news in Florida. A couple of places now, their decriminalization of marijuana goes into effect today. That includes Tampa, Florida, city of Tampa. Those caught possessing marijuana in Tampa face lesser punishment. Anything less than 20 grams only gets a ticket. $75 for first offense, $150 for second offense, $300 or more for 3 or more offenses. So, no longer a possibility of a misdemeanor charge in Tampa, Florida. Also, for the folks in Volusia County, Florida, their decriminalization ordinance goes into effect today. Their ticket is a $100 ticket rather than $75 that we see in Tampa. And again, it has to be less than 20 grams. So we have Volusia. They've now joined Miami and Miami-Dade County and Palm Beach County and Broward, I think, has done this. A number of counties, a number of cities in Florida, all moving to decriminalize marijuana. They don't have the time to lock people up anymore. It's not popular to lock people up anymore. Changing it to fine only. We are making some progress, folks, especially when we got Florida on our side. That's amazing. In some other news that's fascinating to me, this one comes from the world of sports. CBS Denver, and this is not an April Fool's story, although it did come out on April 1st. Marijuana dispensary seeks naming rights for Mile High Stadium. Okay, so if you're a football fan, you think of Denver's stadium as Mile High Stadium. It was always called Mile High Stadium. And stadiums all across the country for football, basketball, baseball, hockey have been subject to these corporate naming rights over the past couple of decades. So that we didn't call Mile High Stadium anymore. Now it's called Sports Authority Field. A similar thing in Portland for the Trailblazers. We grew up loving the Rose Garden. The Blazers played in the Rose Garden. City of Roses. Made sense, right? Not anymore. No, it's the Moda Center. Not Mota. that would be appropriate. Trailblazers in the Mota Center? Yes, that makes sense. No, Moda as in one of those big health companies, right? So these corporate naming rights have been all over the place, naming all these stadiums, trying to make money for corporations. Sports Authority has filed bankruptcy. So the question now is, well, can Sports Authority afford the naming rights to this stadium? Now, naming rights for the Super Bowl champs are not cheap. According to the reports, Sports Authority's contract was $6 million a year just to have the stadium called Sports Authority Field. $6 million a year. Well, now, one of Colorado's cannabis companies wants to put their name on Mile High Stadium. It's Native Roots, and they're one of Colorado's largest dispensaries. In 1 year, Native Roots has expanded from 1 store to 14. They got a dispensary chain here of 14 stores, and they are ready to contract with the Denver Broncos to name the stadium if Sports Authority's bankruptcy prevents them from renewing the contract. And Native Roots says the affordability of the contract is not a problem. Wow, folks. We got dispensaries that are going to be able to kick in $6 million a year to put their name on a football stadium. It only makes me wonder one thing. How much has Native Roots contributed to Denver Normal? How much has Native Roots contributed to the Drug Policy Alliance? How much has Native Roots contributed to any of the activism groups that are necessary to create the possibility of even naming a football field? I'm not against these companies getting into corporate naming, getting into any of these arenas. I'm fine with that. But Ethan Nadelman brought this up the other day in one of his talks, and other, Michelle Alexander's brought it up as well, talking about how this green rush, these new entrepreneurs, especially those who aren't steeped in the culture and history of marijuana activism, better start to recognize, to kick down to the legalization movement, that they cannot expand beyond their state without more legal states, and there won't be more legal states unless we get some money back to the activist groups. So Native Roots, I'm cool with you if you want to name Sports Authority Field. That's fine. Doesn't matter who names it. I'm always going to call it Mile High Stadium. But if you're kicking over $6 million for naming rights and not kicking over a dime for reform advocacy, then you got your priorities out of place. Time to adjust. Time to recognize. Time for the green rush to kick down to the advocates and the groups that made their profits possible. Got to take a break. We'll close up shop when we come back in just 2 minutes. Stick around.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Educator, author, and advocate Dr. Mitch Earlywine is here to tackle the burning issues.
And I'm here to clear up the myths about cannabis and burn them away with science.
CannabisRadio.com presents a no-holds-barred platform that seeks to redefine and revolutionize the entire scope of the cannabis culture while opening the door for more to join the cannabis crusade.
Dr. Kevin Hill.
You can't ignore the fact that, like alcohol, most people who use don't have a problem. So I think that you need to think about policy in that way while educating people properly about marijuana. I think that's the way to go.
Burning Issues, only on CannabisRadio.com.
The Russ Belville Show. We're as much like Cheech and Chong as ordinary Americans are like the Three Stooges. Hey, Mo!
Georgia. Hi, this is Willie Nelson. Alcohol prohibition didn't work in the 1920s, and marijuana prohibition isn't working today. It's time we stopped arresting responsible marijuana smokers. It's the fair thing to do.
For more information, contact NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Call toll-free 888-67-NORML or visit their website at norml.org.
Forwarding the cause of legalization and research of the growing cannabis industry, one podcast at a time. The Cannabis Radio Network.
Are you playing an acoustic guitar but want to be louder without an amp? Try a resonator guitar. The fingerboard extension has National Resophonic and other resonators, square necks and round necks. Stop by the Fingerboard Extension downtown Corvallis at 120 Northwest 2nd Street today, or check out its inventory on the web at fingerboardextension.com. Go wild hog in the woods.
Stupid Prohibition Stories. As a public service, the Russ Belville Show reminds you that smoking marijuana does not make one stupid. However, some stupid people do smoke marijuana, and prohibition is always waiting for another victim. Learn your lesson from today's Stupid Prohibition Stories.
With your Stupid Prohibition Stories, I'm old-timey 1920s radio reporter Freddie Farrak. This just in from Coin 6 in Oregon. Talking while driving leads police to 104 pot plants. Bend, Oregon. A traffic stop in Bend led police to a large pot grow and a butane hash oil drug lab. The investigation started earlier this year when 29-year-old Trevor Thayer was pulled over for using a handheld device while driving. Police said he had a suspended license, and a search of his SUV found 63 pounds of processed marijuana. Evidence led police to believe a larger drug organization existed, and 2 search warrants were served on Wednesday. Police searched Thayer's house and a second home that police say was being used solely as a place to grow pot and manufacture butane hash oil. No one was living there. In all, police found a large-scale butane hash oil lab, 136 pounds of marijuana, and 104 marijuana plants. 2 other men allegedly involved in the drug operation were also arrested. Butane hash oil is considered a cannabinoid extract and under Oregon law is illegal to manufacture without a license. I'm Freddie Farrock with your stupid prohibition story. Thanks, Freddie. How many times do we have to say it, folks? Obey Steinborn's rule. Steinborn's rule says only break one law at a time. If you have 63 pounds of marijuana in your SUV, you are breaking the law, even in Oregon. Now, it's only a misdemeanor. You can't get a felony in Oregon for marijuana possession, but you're still breaking the law. If you've got 63 pounds in your SUV, maybe your ass with the suspended license ought not to be driving. And if you do have 63 pounds in the SUV and you're driving with the suspended license, maybe you ought not talk on the cell phone while you're driving. Too many of these cases of people getting busted for weed are a case of someone doing something stupid that had they not done something stupid, they'd have gotten away with it. That's the only reason I keep bringing these stories up to you on the show, is to hope that we can learn from the stupid mistakes of others and not make those mistakes ourselves. Folks, that's all the time we got for today and for this week. Thanks for joining us from Las Vegas the first 3 days and from Astoria today. We'll be in Portland next week, so join us then. Might even be coming to you from Ganja John's place. We don't know. We'll see. And plenty more coming up on the Russ Belville Show. We'll be also upgrading the Russ Belville Show RadicalRuss.com website soon. You'll be able to find my calendar of events there, and we're going to restart our VIP program. Those of you who are 420 Radio VIPs will be ported over to the new Radical Russ VIPs. For everyone here at CannabisRadio.com, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at RadicalRuss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!